Our next guest is receiving critical acclaim for her role in the series.
And we know her, we love her as Princess Tiana. Of course, you remember the voice of Disney's hit animated film, The Princess and the Frog. Everybody, please welcome Anika Noni Rose. Yes, you are Disney royalty, and it seems like at the time that was so groundbreaking. What do you think about that time, where we were at the moment, to now it seems like we have come to certainly a better place in all these years now?
Do you think so?
Yeah, y'all think so? We have gotten a little better?
I mean, I'm still the only one.
Yeah.
So we have new princesses coming out. We have new Ariel coming out very soon with Halle and Halle Bailey. Things have gotten better, yes. I think that as we find ways to make fantasy spaces that are inclusive in a way that we're not just talking about one group of people or one land or one this, I think that it will be even more exciting when we get to see fantasy places that are, and this is not just Disney, I'm talking about in any space.
You remind me so much of the conversation I had with Halle Berry when we talk about her Oscar. See, the first thing out of her mouth, I'm still the only one. After 20, I'm still the only one. And still, I saw kind of your posture to where it's something we should celebrate, but at the same time, not moving fast enough.
No, and I think, you know, we have Moana now. We're moving, but I think that it can't also only be on Disney. There, you know, and we often talk about Disney because they're the pinnacle of that space, I think. But when we talk about diversity, we need to be talking about everything that we do when we are creating narrative in our country. And I don't think that every story needs to have everyone in them, you know, because that's not true, honest, or fair. But I do think that as we create, particularly in fantasy, if we can have dragons flying, we can definitely have a more diverse group of faces that we're looking at. You know?
That was point taken.
Yeah.
Point taken. I do want to talk about Maid because I just devoured this series. My daughter and I were back and forth. Did you see? Your character was so fascinating, so complex. You know, you didn't know if she was, you know, bad or good or in between. She had a soft side, but she had a tough side too. What was it like digging into her?
I loved getting into Regina because she was someone who was so hard and blocked, and she just had a wall up around her. And she was also a woman who was in a space that you generally don't see black women in. She was very, very moneyed, exquisitely successful, living in a house that I would ransom all three of you all to live in. You know, and that's not a space that we generally see. But also what we got to see is that she was dealing with many, many things that so many women deal with and we don't feel like we can talk about. So inhabiting her and pulling those layers back one by one was a phenomenally amazing gift as an artist from Molly Smith Metzler and the people who created Maid. I was really grateful to be able to speak those words and create this person that changed every time you saw her. You thought you had a bead on her, and then something else happened, and you learned something else. And she ends up, in some ways, you know, being the hero for our heroine, because even heroines need heroes, you know. So it was a really beautiful journey to be able to take, and a gorgeous challenge.
And you've been working on so many interesting things. You have another project that you're working on with Showtime.
Yes.
You're getting into the world of vampires. I'm sure Amy's going to love this one. And horror. Were you a horror fan before that project?
I'm not necessarily a horror fan. I'm a huge Anne Rice fan. Like, I always wanted to be Queen of the Damned. Life is not over. I've always wanted to do that. And in this, I'm a cop. So the vampire that we're looking at is a child, which is very interesting. But the show itself really, yes, there's an element of horror, but there's also, it's really about what we would do for the people we love. How far do we go to help the people that we love, and what do we accept in those spaces? Because, you know, you think vampire, you're like, not in my house. But if it's your kid, what then do you do? So it's a really interesting space to inhabit. And here in New York, where there's a lot of crime happening in the city, and I've got to figure out what is happening and why all of these murders are happening, and yet I'm living next door to a vampire, and I have no idea.
Well, Anika, it is so great to have you here in studio.
Thank
Look,
you.
we are fans of you. You've touched every project, and so you got something for everybody in the work you have done.
you.
So we look forward to everything that's coming down the pike from you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
And folks, Made is streaming now on Netflix.
Highly recommend.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.